But just to share the track and fight against another world champion like him, and certainly Oscar as well, who will be a world champion. I really enjoyed this season because of that. As much as they made my life hell a lot of the time, it always kind of, those moments I almost enjoyed the most. You know, Oscar the whole way, since round one, I knew he was probably going to be the toughest guy to beat. And then you can never count out Max. You know, Max is Max. And we certainly never counted him out, but for anyone who might have done, he proved you all wrong. So I'm glad we kept ourselves on our toes, and we were ready for such a thing. But a pleasure to fight Max, you know, 4-time world champion. So for me to have those fights against him and enjoy those moments on track, maybe not always enjoy them, but some of them. But just to share the track and fight against another world champion.
What does it really take to become a Formula One world champion? Talent? A great car? Luck? Lando Norris gave us a different answer. Not with data, not with statistics, but with tears, with an open heart confession after the most intense race of his life. Are you ready to relive the moment that redefined your career and perhaps an entire era in Formula One? Abu Dhabi, December 7th, 2025. A titanic season was coming to an end. The spotlights illuminated the circuit, the fireworks were ready to explode, and the eyes of the entire world were fixed on three men: Max Verstappen, Oscar Piastri, and Lando Norris. But in the end, only one crossed that invisible line between being a great driver and becoming a legend. And that was Lando Norris. He didn't win the race. He didn't make the pole. He didn't lead the most laps. But he won something much bigger, the World Championship. And he did it with a statement that was much more than a post-race phrase. It was a human, real, unfiltered confession. It was a victory that was not only measured in points, but in everything it cost to get there. My God, I haven't cried in a while. I didn't think I would, but I did, she said, her voice breaking as tears ran down her face. At that time, Lando was not a pilot. It was not a number in the classification. He was not a brand ambassador. He was a human being who, after years of waiting, could finally breathe and say, "I made it." What surprised many was the emotional transformation of a pilot who, for years, was known for his light smile, his relaxed humor, and his almost perfect media image. In Abu Dhabi, that mask fell. And behind her there was not a character, there was a man. One who had endured the pressure, the criticism, the comparisons to other champions, and still chose gratitude as his first response. The scene was so powerful that it left the press with no more questions than one: how did you survive so much? And the answer, although it was not literal, was implicit in his look and in his pause before speaking. Lando didn't win because he was perfect. He won because he was resilient. Because after every hit, it came back. And that moment, that brief moment in which tears flowed without permission, was the definitive proof that this title was won with the soul, not just with the hands behind the wheel. Many champions celebrate by shouting, raising their fists to the sky, getting into the car, or hugging their team. Lando just broke down. And that fragility was the greatest proof of his strength. Because there are victories that are felt, but there are others that are lived. And this, for Lando Norris, was both. When Lando Norris dedicated part of his historic statement to congratulating Max Verstappen and Oscar Piastri, he was not simply complying with the sportsmanship protocol required by the category. He was acknowledging, with brutal honesty, that without them his title would not have had the same weight. "I want to congratulate Max and Oscar, my two biggest competitors throughout the season. It has been a pleasure and an honor to race against both of them," he said. But that message hid much more than kind words. It was the emotional summary of a battle that was fought race after race, with a level of demand that only the greatest can endure. The 2025 season was a silent battlefield between three drivers who embodied three different ways of competing. Max Verstappen, the relentless champion looking for his fifth crown. Oscar Piastri, the cold-blooded technical prodigy who challenged his own team. And Lando Norris, the pilot-turned-emotional leader who found his own structure in the chaos. None of the three gave in. None of the three left room for error. And yet, the three respected each other in a way rarely seen in a sport where egos often speak louder than actions. This respect was born from struggle. Max was still Max, aggressive, millimetric, surgical. He did not forgive mistakes, he did not give away space, and he turned every centimeter of the court into an opportunity to show that his reign was not over. In China, in Japan, on every circuit where the conditions favored him, Max became that constant shadow that forced everyone to be perfect if they wanted to beat him. And still, he lost the title by 2 points. That minimal difference is not measured in victories, but in the weight of each maneuver, in each stop, in each correct decision made by Norris in critical moments. Max did not fail. Lando was simply better at the little things when they counted the most. But the real dramatic ingredient of the year was Oscar Piastri. His fight was not only against his rivals on the track, but against his own team. McLaren did not have a clear favorite for much of the year, and that led the team to tense, uncomfortable, even conflictive situations. Piastri led the championship for weeks. He won on difficult circuits. He dominated Saturdays like few others. And yet, in the last few dates, he lost that final spark that Norris knew how to find. The internal battle at McLaren was so fierce that, at times, it seemed that both were destroying each other instead of adding. But that didn't happen. Because what was between Norris and Piastri was not hatred or envy. It was a mirror rivalry. Two talents trained under the same roof with different styles but an identical hunger. On the track, they were enemies. Outside of it, accomplices of a season that marked them forever. Norris did not win alone. He won because he survived a storm of constant pressure. Because he learned to measure his ego, to manage the emotional energy consumed by fighting every curve, every braking against the best. And because, in a world of figures, analysis and simulations, he remembered that Formula One is still a sport for human beings. Humans who feel that they are wrong. Who fight not only for titles, but to validate themselves in front of the mirror every Sunday afternoon. Abu Dhabi Yas Marina Circuit witnessed a championship final that not only lived up to expectations, but surpassed any script imaginable. Lando Norris entered the last race of the year with a 12-point lead over Max Verstappen and 16 over Oscar Piastri. On paper, everything seemed under control. A podium was enough to seal the title. But races are not won on paper. They are won on the track. And that track gave Norris the most demanding test of his entire career. From the start, the scene became extremely tense. Verstappen on pole, Norris second, Piastri third, each one with different strategies. Red Bull opted for medium tires for Max. McLaren divided their bet. Norris also went with medium while Piastri chose hard, looking for a different strategic window that could surprise. As soon as the lights went out, everything changed. Verstappen defended the first corner with authority. Piastri, with surgical coolness, executed one of the cleanest and riskiest overtakes of the year. On the outside in turn 9, passing his own teammate. That maneuver not only put him in second position, but it put immediate psychological pressure on Norris. From that moment on, the Briton no longer controlled his destiny comfortably. He had to defend himself, think, execute, and not make mistakes. There was no margin. The first stint was a game of chess at 300 kilometers per hour. Norris knew he couldn't fall into the emotional trap of pursuing Piastri. I didn't need to overtake. He just needed to maintain the pace and protect his position against Leclerc, who had been pushing from behind with the Ferrari. That was the first great lesson of his consecration, knowing when to run to win and when to run to not lose. But the most complicated thing was yet to come. Norris's stop came on lap 16. He returned to the track in 9th position. Heavy traffic. Drivers with older tires, but with the advantage of being part of a DRS train that made it almost impossible to overtake without losing valuable seconds. It was a tactical trap. Every lap behind those cars was a direct threat to the championship. And there, in that moment, Lando showed why he was ready to be world champion. He didn't make mistakes. It didn't lock brakes. It didn't wear out the tires excessively. He measured each attack. He took advantage of every opportunity. And above all, he trusted the strategy and his race pace. McLaren this time did not fail. The timing in the pits was perfect, and tire window calculation allowed Norris to maintain net position over Leclerc as everyone completed their stops. Even so, the race gave him no respite. Piastri kept up the pressure with an alternative strategy. Verstappen was leading and looking for victory to force a miracle. But Norris, from 3rd position, held the invisible line of the champion. Because in Yas Marina did not win because of speed. He won by emotional control, by strategic maturity, and by having learned throughout the year that the championship is not decided only in the corners, but in the moments of silence, in the invisible decisions that do not appear in the replays. When he crossed the finish line, Norris did not celebrate like an elated victor. He did it like someone finally exhaling after holding his breath for an entire season. His 3rd place was worth more than any victory, because it was a podium under absolute pressure. And that is the difference between a talented driver and a world champion. It was a race without errors. No desperate maneuvers. Without unnecessary risks. A masterclass in control. Cold-headed. knowing when to give in and when to attack. To understand that sometimes the greatest act of bravery is to stay calm when everything around you screams for you to speed up more than necessary. At Yas Marina, Norris didn't just win a championship. He redefined what it means to be a champion in an era of hyper-competitive Formula One. He did it without winning the race, without needing pole, without dominating from start to finish. He did it by surviving every turn of the year. And most importantly, he did it without betraying his essence. Because there are races that give you points, but there are others that give you the story. And this, for Lando Norris, will be his legend. Let me know in the comments what you think about all this.